I'm Galena from Microflower Farm, and here's what we're doing on the farm today. Me, my husband is doing stuff too. So I have a few hundred bulbs and about 10 peonies that have been sitting in my cooler, and they need to be planted. And I need to divide about 20 million dahlias. Not really, but it feels like it. So I'm just getting it done. But I did want to share a quick hack that I use to deter voles from eating all the bulbs. If you have vole pressure, you probably know they love tulips, but they don't like daffodils. So one way that you can naturally discourage them from going after your tulips is interplant them with daffodils. This is what I do, and I'm just gonna say right now, if you want to plant your bulbs as perennials, do not plant them this closely. I do this because I'm a farmer. But if you notice, daffodil, 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 the daffodils are actually planted a little bit apart. The tulips are not. And this is because as a farmer, I intend to pull all of those tulips. As soon as they just start blooming, I'm gonna pull them and use them for bouquets, and I'm actually not gonna reuse the bulbs. The daffodils I plant a little further apart because I actually want them to be perennials. And if you can see this whole row behind me, this is mostly planted with daffodils that I'm trying to increase the bulbs. So daffodils will multiply their bulbs underground. So you definitely want to plant them like 6 to 8 inches apart if you want them to be perennials. And they're actually really good perennial. I didn't have the space ready where I want my daffodils permanently. So I'm actually planting this massive row, which was a dahlia row in summer, so that these bulbs can grow and multiply, and then next fall I'll dig them up and transplant them to where I want them to be actually. But this way I'll still get the flowers, I'll get more bulbs than I bought, and I'm gonna have 100 feet of daffodils blooming in spring. So again, I plant tulips as annuals, which is why they're so close together. No, it actually doesn't really matter that they're kind of on their side. I'll tell you how I found out that it doesn't matter. First of all, if you think about it, bulbs know which way to go up. No bulb tries to grow down into the ground. They're always reaching for the light. So even if they're upside down, their sprout is gonna find a way to get up out of the soil. But last year I grew like 15,000 bulbs, and most of those were tulips. And I was planting them in crates, which is what I typically do when I grow a lot. This year I'm only growing about 500 tulips. I was gonna take a break, but then I realized I missed them too much, so I ordered 500. It's not that many for a farmer. I'm gonna actually mostly use them for custom bouquets. But anyway, flashback. I had all these tulips. I had no time. I was trying to dig up all the dahlias and divide them. So I told my kids, which in hindsight was not like the greatest plan for me. It turned out really good for them. I said, listen, we have these crates. Each crate holds like 100 tulips. Every crate you plant, I'll give you $5. That was my mistake. So the reason why it was my mistake was because I was planting my crates all nice and pretty. They were all in a row. Their little points were all facing up. You know, it took me a little bit of time to get each crate planted. My son, smart boy, just dumped them in, and he had a crate done in 15 seconds and was getting $5 a crate. So I kept my word. They got $5 a crate. He made way more money than I thought he would. But here's the thing. At this point, I was overwhelmed, okay? I had hundreds and hundreds of dahlias to dig up. I was trying to divide them. I had all of these spring flowers I needed to plant. He had dumped them in and just like kind of spread them out, and I didn't have time to go in and fix them. And they all grew the same. There was no difference. It didn't matter that they were all sideways and, you know, maybe a couple were upside down. They all grew. It was like a massive, massive harvest. So doesn't actually matter which way they're pointed. Now, if you feel OCD about it, go ahead, point them up. It's certainly not gonna hurt to point them up. But if you're short on time, if they're sideways, not gonna make a difference. Quick planting tips. If you want your tulips to be perennials, plant them 6 inches apart, 6 inches deep, well, 4 to 6 inches deep. Daffodils, same thing. Alliums, you can move them a little closer, like 3 inches. This gives them room for the bulbs to grow and expand. Daffodils, if you've had like an established clump of daffodils for a really long time and they're not blooming anymore, it's probably because you need to dig them up, separate out all those bulbs, spread them out so they have room to grow. A little peek in the hoop house. Daniel's finishing up outside if you hear drilling, but we got the plastic on yesterday and we just need to remove the silage tarp and get it planted. I'm very excited. This is 120 feet by 16 feet by Farmers Friends. I'll put in the link in description. It's very well built, very sturdy. I've been eyeing these for years and I am literally so happy to finally have one. One of the cool things about this tunnel is it has roll-up sights. So Daniel just finished that and we're gonna try it out. And this will be my absolutely very first time trying out this roller, so let's see how it goes.
You're supposed to hold on to that handle.
Oh. Well, despite the fact that it took me a second to figure out that there was a handle for me to hold on to, I love that. This thing is 120 feet and it went up over the entire length of it with no problem. Also, and it does that on both sides. So the amount of ventilation that you can get from just rolling it up on both sides, especially with summer growing, is extremely helpful with high tunnel growing. So I'm very happy about that feature. Oh, and then I impulse bought, I was gonna trial these this year anyway, and then I was at a guy I get stuff wholesale from, and they had just bought in lisianthus plugs. So I impulse bought 5 trays, which is 1,000. I mean, they look so healthy, like how could I say no? Anyway, those are going in the high tunnel too. It will be a really good trial. I got a couple trays of one called Terracotta, which is a gorgeous mauve, little brown. It's not like the Roseanne brown, but it's really pretty and I think it's gonna do amazing in summer bouquets. I'm also really excited just to try lisianthus in a tunnel. I've tried them before and they do okay here, but where I live specifically, we just don't typically get hot enough summers, which is weird because if you drove like an hour east of me, you do, but climates vary even with that amount of like that few miles. So I'm excited to try them in a tunnel and see them hopefully actually perform the way they're supposed to. And then if you're curious on how they did, they bloomed and grew just fine. They just didn't get as tall as they're supposed to. They were more like, I'd say 14 inches of stem length, which they really should be not double that, but a lot closer to double that. And I only got 1 flush of flowers, which for a seed that takes forever to grow, hence why I buy plugs, that wasn't a good bed space when I was on less property. But we'll see how they do. If they do a really good job this year, then I'll add them into my rotation because the vase life is incredible. If you haven't grown lisianthus, 2 weeks, sometimes stretching 3, but average of 2 weeks, which is a really good vase life for a summer blooming flower. So this afternoon I have some more seeds to plant. Found another pack of Japanese sweet peas from someone. And I'm also going to be stamping dahlias. So in the past, I have done little plastic bags with like a printed name to label my dahlias. I have not loved that from the sustainability factor, but it was easy to do. But I've wanted a more sustainable option for a long time. The problem was that the dahlia stamps that I could find where you stamp the name, I didn't feel like they worked very well. So I came across this small business on Etsy and loved what she had, because what she does is she does the dahlia name, but it's like made out of printed foam, so it can bend with the tuber, which to me is a game changer. Now, the one downside is you have to order, you know, one for every variety you have, but they were honestly not that expensive. So I just got those, and I will demonstrate how I do them in another video. But actually, I'll just show them to you. They're really cool. And one of the reasons why I like dahlia stamps is the tubers I've gotten from other growers where they stamp them with an ink. When you dig them up, most of the time, they still have the name on the tuber, which means that if you forgot to ID it, or you just weren't sure, or your tag got lost, you can still figure out what it is. All right, so here we go. It's foam. It's cut out so you can see like the variety name, and it's bendable so you can bend it with the tuber. Most of the ones that I've seen before I saw this one were this metal type thing, and you had to switch it for every name you did. But I like these because they bend. And then this is the ink that I use. So this will actually stay on the tuber long term. So all the varieties, I do need to figure out a way to organize these by probably alphabetically, so I'm not digging through the bag. But like I said, they were not that expensive. I'll stick the link to her shop below, and I'll do another video showing you exactly how it works and how they look. But that's what I'll be doing today. So goal for this week, get that high tunnel planted, lots of dividing, stamp all the ones that have been divided, and get those packed away. And then behind the scenes, we're doing a lot of website work, which I have mentioned this before, but I've been switching websites for the past couple months. If you log in, you would still see my old website, but we almost have the new one done and ready to switch the domain over, which is very exciting because it's definitely a lot of background work that feels a little tedious at times, but it will be worth it. And then January 1st is when I start everything for dahlia cuttings, which I know is going to be here before I know it. Time goes very quickly on a farm. But that's a wrap. I will do that stamping video soon, and also one on planting out the high tunnel and what exactly I'm doing and how I'm structuring it, and companion planting in there. I have a few ideas on how to cram as much in as I possibly can, so I'll be sharing that. Sweet peas are pretty much all sprouted, so those will be going out before the end of the month for sure. Like I said before in another video, once they get going, they grow really quickly. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, let me know.